You've probably heard the word gnosis used like it's a forbidden file locked in a secret archive. But in the Western esoteric tradition, it means something far more disruptive. Gnosis isn't secret information. It's the moment knowledge stops being something you believe and becomes something you know in your bones. And before we finish, I'll give you a simple way to tell the difference between real gnosis and a story the mind tells because it wants to feel special. Before we go further, do this. In one sentence, what do you think gnosis is? Drop it in the comments, your honest sense of it. Then stay with me and see if your answer changes by the end. In Greek, gnosis simply means knowledge. But in the spiritual currents of late antiquity, it became a technical word. Not book learning, not doctrine, direct recognition. Like the difference between reading about fire and feeling the heat. Information can be borrowed. Gnosis can't. That idea grows out of initiation culture. Mystery. Traditions across the Mediterranean treated the sacred as something you undergo, not merely discuss. A myth could be told publicly, but its meaning was meant to land privately, through an inner shift. In that same crossroads, you get Hermeticism, associated with Hermes Trismegistus, often understood as a fusion of Greek Hermes and Egyptian Thoth. Messenger and scribe, threshold crosser and keeper of divine measure. It's an archetype of gnosis itself, intelligence that crosses worlds and returns, with something ordinary language can only point toward. In the Corpus Hermeticum, awakening isn't won by argument alone. It's recognized as a kind of remembering. Then, in the 2nd and 3rd centuries, gnosis becomes a battlefield. Different movements, better called Gnosticisms, plural, built mythic systems around a core claim. Ignorance is a prison, and liberation is a kind of knowing. Many taught that a spark of the divine sits inside the human being, covered over by fear, distraction, and counterfeit identity. Salvation, in that frame, is less about collecting merit and more about waking up. This is where Sophia appears. Not just a goddess in a shallow sense, but a symbolic drama of wisdom entangled and returning. Sophia explains why the world feels fractured and why we still sense something higher. And you can watch the historical tension. Writers like Irenaeus attacked these groups as distortions of Christianity, while philosophers like Plotinus criticized their hostility toward the material cosmos. Later discoveries like the Nag Hammadi library, containing texts such as the Gospel of Thomas and the Apocryphon of John, show how diverse and psychologically sharp these currents were. Whether you read them devotionally or critically, they circle one obsession: the move from second-hand belief to first-hand recognition. Here's the common misunderstanding. People hear gnosis and assume it means hoarding hidden facts. But the older meaning points the other way. Gnosis is not, I learned a secret. It's, I changed, and now I see. If we step outside the Western frame, you'll notice close relatives. Jnana in Indian traditions is liberating knowledge by realization, not just scholarship. Prajna in Buddhism is wisdom that sees through illusion. Marifa in Sufism is intimate knowing of the real. I'm not saying they're identical in history, I'm saying they rhyme in function. Knowing by contact, not by hearsay. Different cultures give that contact different faces: Hermes, or Thoth, Sophia, or Isis, the inner guide, the hidden friend. But the inner mechanic is the same. Consciousness shifts, and knowledge shifts with it. This is exactly where occultism and magic enter the timeline, because Western esotericism becomes, in many ways, a technology for producing gnosis on purpose. Medieval Jewish Kabbalah, flowering in places like Spain and Provence, developed a symbolic universe of emanation and divine names. In the Renaissance, Christian thinkers like Pico della Mirandola and Johannes Reuchlin helped ignite new readings of Kabbalah. And by the 19th and early 20th centuries, occult orders reshaped these streams into what many now call Hermetic Kabbalah, the tree of life used as a map for ritual, meditation, and transformation. On that tree, one word keeps haunting practitioners: Dath, knowledge. In many Hermetic presentations, Dath is a threshold, not a comfortable destination. It's where neat categories fail, where knowing becomes crisis and doorway at once. In my opinion, it's the tradition's blunt warning. Chase knowledge as ego decoration, and it will break you. Chase knowledge as surrender to truth, and it can remake you. Occult writers like Dion Fortune treated the tree as lived psychology, not decoration. Israel Regardie, speaking from the Golden Dawn current, insisted that ritual is meant to produce inner results, not costume drama. And this brings us to the practical side. The magician uses symbol, sound, posture, and disciplined attention to shift state, until something clicks and the symbols stop being ideas and start being realities in experience. This is also where secret societies matter, and it's worth being honest. Not every secret is a conspiracy. Historically, secrecy protected people. Psychologically, secrecy creates a container. Things held with reverence gain weight. An initiatory system uses graded revelation because the student needs time to become the kind of person who can carry an experience without distorting it. A symbol given too early becomes a prop. A symbol earned through change becomes a key. And yes, groups benefit. Cohesion, shared language, a lineage of tested methods, sometimes what's called an egregore, an atmosphere that amplifies the work. But the real advantage isn't knowing the password. It's training attention until gnosis can happen reliably, and training character so you don't get intoxicated by it. High magic and ceremonial magic, at their best, are built for that. The structure is simple in principle. Clear the noise, establish a sacred frame, embody a divine pattern, then integrate what changed. I'm keeping this at the level of principle on purpose because the point isn't choreography. It's outcome. The experienced practitioner isn't trying to impress invisible beings. They're tuning the psyche like an instrument. And when the instrument resonates, gnosis arrives. A sudden coherence, a presence, a revelation that feels less like new data and more like remembering your own depth. Aleister Crowley, love him or hate him, was blunt that the measure of a path is experience. In Thelema, knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel points to a specific kind of gnosis, not just a mood or a vision, but an aligning intelligence that reorganizes life around a deeper center. Other streams use other words: higher self, genius, demon, inner teacher, but the demand is the same. Stop borrowing your spirituality and meet it directly. Here's how. Seasoned people apply this without turning it into fantasy. They keep records. They test insights against time. If an experience makes them more grounded, honest, compassionate, and responsible, they take it seriously. If it makes them arrogant, paranoid, addicted to specialness, or eager to control others, they question it. They learn to distinguish intensity from truth. When I first understood that, I felt relieved and exposed at the same time. Relieved because I could stop chasing trivia. Exposed because I couldn't hide behind trivia either. Modernity didn't kill gnosis, it changed the vocabulary. Carl Jung wrote about the numinous, an encounter that overwhelms the ego with meaning, and the lifelong work of integrating it. Scholars like Hans Jonas mapped the existential mood of ancient Gnosticisms, and Gershom Scholem traced how Jewish mysticism developed its own disciplined ways of knowing. Meanwhile, modern practitioners, from ceremonialists to chaos magicians who talk about Gnostic states, keep returning to the same center. Reading can inspire you, but practice has to transform you. Now let's close the loop I promised at the beginning. How do you tell real gnosis from self-hypnosis? Here's a test that holds up across traditions. Real gnosis increases your capacity for truth, mystical truth, and everyday truth. It tends to produce clarity, humility, steadiness, and a quieter kind of courage. It doesn't need constant applause. It doesn't collapse when questioned. False gnosis inflates the ego, demands believers, and turns life into a stage where you're always the chosen one. One kind makes you freer, the other makes you perform. So I want to hear from you again. Go back to your one-sentence definition from earlier. Would you change it? Put your updated version in the comments. And if you've ever had a moment, through meditation, ritual, grief, awe, or simple silence, where something in you clicked and you were never quite the same, share that too. Not to prove anything, but because handled with discernment, those moments are exactly what this tradition has been pointing toward. Because the true meaning of gnosis isn't that you possess a secret. It's that the secret dissolves the old you and leaves you with something simpler than belief. A way of knowing you can live.